All right, here is the video review for MPM-8 movie Megatron. And you can see he's a big mamma jamma because he is not really fitting all that well onto the entirety of my camera. We'll pull out here just to show off the, see Prime's foot there. We're going to have him out in a minute. But his jet mode, and he really is just kind of Supermaning because here's his head, here are his arms, his legs collapse up, but these are his legs and his feet back here. So he's really just laying flat with his wings extended and his face. Literally, like if this were up, you would see his face staring out down the front of his spaceship mode, very much like he would do in Transformers Prime. The instructions are kind of iffy at spots only because they're the same type of black and white drawing with purple detailing. Some bits are clear, some bits are too small to really make out what's happening. Case in point, right off the bat, for the most part, everything here is tabbed in. I'm pretty sure I've got it securely together. But one of his little accessory weapon stores back here. The other one tabs in here to the foot. I've got that right. I mean, like I can see that in the instructions. This piece, it makes it look like it's supposed to snap in under here. Like, ta-da! And there is a little piece here. Like that piece could conceivably fit over that tab. Well, maybe not. But it does kind of just sit in this little groove if you fold this up fairly securely. So I'm not super worried about it. But if there is a secure attachment point that you're aware of, please let me know, because I have looked at the instructions and I have not seen anything here or found anywhere to really, for this to really tab or peg in securely under here. And I'm just curious. Like I said, setting it in over this little flap, it sits securely. You can swoosh them around. The tab is not loose, so it doesn't rotate back here. So even turning them upside down, this piece doesn't really move. I'm happy with where it is. It's just if there is some sort of official place for it to attach, I would very much like to know. So yeah. But yeah, it's really is a decent representation of the first movies. It's a space plane jet thing because we say so mode. And okay, like I said, somebody was complaining about I didn't seem enthusiastic about it on Twitter the other night, and honestly, like I said, my lack of enthusiasm really comes down to the fact that just I was never a big fan of this design in the first place. I feel like with some tweaks it could have been a little better, but the toy itself is a really decent representation of what we got on screen in the 2007 movie. But to start off transformation, we'll go ahead and we'll unpeg this. This is like an extender for his arm, which we'll show off when we get to robot mode. It's just an extra soft plastic piece. Back here from behind the feet, you can untab this. This will be a cannon / mace claw thing we can use on his robot mode. So that done, like I said, this has already come undone. A lot of the stuff doesn't tab together super securely. So we'll go ahead and lift this up, unpeg these pieces right here, these support pieces from the tail piece on both sides. Just kind of lift that up to get it out of the way. You can kind of lift these up as well. And then we start folding up the wings here. You unpeg this from the side. This folds up. This is going to fold around. This little soft spiky bit folds around. This whole assembly folds around onto the back. And this folds around like this. This is going to fold flat. This is going to fold. You untab it from the back here. Fold this up. There's a tab there that goes together. And then these are going to collapse in for later. Do that. Fold this up. Fold this in. Around to the back. Fold this around. Fold this up and in here. Oh, kind of. That's this whole backpack assembly is going to come into play later. Up here, lift his head up. Go ahead and fold this piece down. Lift up this front shield. It kind of folds up and back to form his face. And like I said, if you had that up, there's his head just staring forward in his jet mode. But yeah, untab the arms here. From these pieces. And you just kind of start lifting all this up. Untab this whole assembly from, there's a tab that goes into the chest piece here. So basically you just kind of loosen everything up here. He does have an allspark that hides in his chest. We'll show that off later. It does only seem to go in one way, but again, we'll show that. We'll fold this. Go ahead and fold this down. Lift the chest up, and then let's see if I can lift this up here and get more of this on camera, because it's actually surprisingly, with all the panels, it's not a super crazy transformation. It's just a matter of getting all the panels out. So his arms were tabbed together inside his chest, and you want to bring those out and around for right now. Now they will come back up, and then these will tab into the upper part of his body here. But bring his arms down, rotate him around with the shoulder, and then here on the end of the arm, this panel comes up. This panel folds up. Rotate his arm, or untab this right here. This was a locking tab. Rotate it so his arm faces forward. Fold this piece up to form the inner forearm. This piece forms the outer forearm. And then you rotate it so this soft rubber plastic with no hinge ends up being like underside of his thumb, and then these are articulated claws for his hands, but that's one arm down. And rotate it so it's oriented correctly. Same over here. Rotate this panel up, untab this, rotate it to be forward. This panel slides up, tabs in right here. Like that. This panel comes up and out. Fold that down. Pose his fingers however you want. There's his hand. And again, bring it down and around like this. Fold that panel down. Now, the nose cone splits and does a whole bunch of stuff. You got to fold this up on each side. This panel folds down and around, fold this around like this, and this around like this. And then these panels, these slide around through like this, and then out to the side like that, out to the side like that. And then they're just going to kind of fold up into this chest cavity here. Each one has its own little specified groove. So fold that down and around, get it lined up. When you get it lined up, this piece should come down. Rotate these soft rubber pieces so the V goes over this plastic piece. It's just going to kind of float there, but bring these around, and here's what I was talking about. You're going to want to tab. There's a tab on the gray piece that goes into the gold piece, and a tab on the gold piece that goes into the gray piece on each side. Right there. Get those lined up, lock all that in. It'll be a little loose for a little bit, but once we get everything locked in, it'll stay together fairly securely. Now we're going to go ahead and lift this up a little bit more because we're going to stand them up tall. So here's the upper torso. We can go ahead and take this, bring this down at this hinge. Should be coming down here at this hinge. Oh, is it like this? It's like this, okay. Fold the wings in, and you'll see you want them to peg together. There's a tab here, so peg them together so they're straight. Tab doesn't want to hold very well, but it's mostly for guidance, because then there's tabs on this piece that when it folds up, these two tabs here are going to tab into these two pieces and lock this whole assembly together. It's a little tricky to get done because you can't see what you're doing the way the piece comes up. But once you get that all locked into place, there's the whole back assembly latched and secure, and that will help hold the chest together as well. So you can see it's already come undone. There we go. And you can see that his upper body is more or less done. We're really just focusing on the legs here, and that's mostly just expanding them out. So just come up here. His foot is a little loose in when you don't have it all the way. This one actually had to loosen up a little bit because it was screwed so tight that it couldn't fit over this piece when it was collapsing to robot mode. So it's a little looser, but it's not going to be an issue once we get to robot mode. But you see, you lift this panel up, get these side panels out of the way here, and then extend the knee up and out. Close this up, and this just kind of latches in here. There's an inner knee piece that can fold up to kind of hide that joint. And then you just take the foot, open it up, and collapse it up so that Sits right there. There is some ankle tilt, but just push that up. And then do this, and then fold this piece in. It tabs on. There's a little tab here on his waist. Just tab this piece onto there. And same over here. And then do the same thing on this foot. Extend the knee up. Fold this in. Put that little inner knee piece up. Take his foot, collapse it up. And there is Megatron. Top to bottom in robot mode. He's still a little big for this video, for the video shot I've got here. These can fold down a little bit. His mouth opens and closes. You can have him screaming or yelling, or closed and semi-calm. You still see his teeth. His head can turn side to side. It doesn't turn right in the middle of the neck. It's got a weird clip here. So the clip actually sits closer to his chin. So it looks a little awkward when you rotate his foot, but or rotate his neck, but not it's not super crazy. And like I said, his robot mode is a pretty decent representation of what we got in the movie. He's got the posable fingers. He's got wrist rotation here. He's got ratcheting elbows. Probably something just not lined up right in there. This should lock together a little better. All said and done, I needed to go in there and fiddle with those folded up nose cone pieces. He's got ratcheting shoulders in both directions. Swivel, ratcheting elbows. The head and the mouth we've already talked about. He does have waist swivel. And then ratcheting hips in both directions. Now his hips do have a little bit of give on in between every click. So he's generally sturdy. Like, I have not had any problems with him standing, but if you pick him up, his legs wobble a little bit. There's just a little bit of give there on those ratchets, which is fine because how often are you really going to just be holding him by his torso and swinging him around? Because he does, like I said, he supports himself just fine. So I don't have any complaints really there. And then he's got the ratcheting knees. Although make sure when you bend it back, make sure you bend it at the right point so the kneecap comes forward. And then he's got articulated toes and some ankle tilt a little bit. I don't know where those on camera, the ankle goes. But yeah. He does have, you saw, like, you can open up. Okay, this is there's definitely something not quite lined up right here because that should be sitting. I had that latched together much more securely last night. But you can open up his chest. There's an Allspark cube that you can jam into it to murder him. I love that he comes with his own murder weapon. There's also a little piece here on the chest plate you can pop out, so you don't have to have all the red showing to see the Allspark. You can, and again, this, I've only found one way to get this in here. There we go. So you may have to fiddle with the Allspark to get it to shove into his chest, but you can have him be dead Megatron with the Allspark in his chest, and you just pop this little piece off. His weapons do store in robot mode. This gun, there's a peg here and a peg here that correspond to peg holes on his waist here, so you can store this. You can peg this on right here underneath his, there we go. It's just a matter of getting it lined up, and again, it's in one of those places where once you get the piece in place, it's kind of hard to see where you're pegging it, but that can peg on right there. And then this piece, you can rotate this out to the side. This piece can connect to it, and then you can fold this up, and this little peg pegs in right here on the back of his wing. There's a little peg hole on the side of the wing there. So you can have that. You can store it like that in robot mode. So it stores in both vehicle and robot mode, which is nice. Now the weapons themselves, you can either, both of his hands can unpeg. So if you want, you can extend his arm. You can plug his hand into here, plug this into his arm, and now he's got an extendable grabby hand. It's floppy. You can't really pose it much. It does have a hinge here, so you can kind of do some stuff with it. But unless you have something actually out here supporting the arm, it's hard to pose with it because it's just soft, rubbery plastic. You can also, if you wish, choose to attach this piece, and maybe you just pretend that's some sort of mace or whatever. This is his gun, but you can also attach this to his hand as a cannon on the end of his arm, or, and the way it's intended to be used, you can actually you can. This becomes his long gun. You open this up, you flip this out, close it, and he's got the long fusion cannon that he slapped his hands together to make. You can, in this mode, just like this, take it, use this side-facing peg, and use it to give him a sword. Which I kind of dig the look of, but whatever. That's not the intended use. You pop this out. Again, let's get it out. Out of here. Shoulder. Head. The head likes to come unclipped too, because it's just a clip holding it onto that swivel. But yeah, so the gun, like I said, this piece was sitting like this. This connector piece does angle, so it's kind of a V shape in the back. That's how we had it in vehicle mode. So you pop off both his hands, you angle his arms in, and you just kind of peg this into both hands. And you can get it straight up a little bit, more of an action pose than just down by his waist, which is kind of inappropriate. But you can have him do the clap his hands together to form the double cannon to shoot things. I don't know how often I'm going to do it because, again, you really, while you can move it up and down a little bit, you don't have a whole lot of posability in the arm. Like, you have him shooting forward, and that's it. But it's neat that they included it. And the fact that I'd be less excited about that if it didn't have a pretty decent storage space. Like, the storing it in robot mode doesn't look out of place. It looks like some more tech bits on his back. But it stays on pretty securely and isn't obtrusive. So, yeah. Go ahead and put his hands back on. Shoot, I'm not sure which hand goes on which hand. I'm pretty sure this one goes here. If I've got that backwards, I'll just swap them later. It's that easy. And then just as a quick... I've really got to figure out what's going on with that, because this stayed together very well. This is absolutely, because it's not pushing down, this is something I've got mistransformed in here. It's not a flaw with the toy. I've done something wrong, and I'm not entirely sure what. But here he is in robot mode. See if we can get as much of him in the camera as we can. Keep his head in frame. Here he is with the Masterpiece movie Optimus. And I guess that's not so bad. He just seems so much more massive than Optimus. And while I remember there was a size difference in the film, I don't remember being quite as differing between the two of them. But I could be wrong, and probably am. And then, just for the sake of having another Decepticon out here, here he is with Barricade. Jazz will be here soon. I didn't feel like digging out Bumblebee or Ironhide for this. But, like I said, I wish I liked him more. I wish I liked this design more, because I feel like they did a really good job of... a better job than I really would have expected them to be able to do. I think they did a decent job of translating the design we saw on the screen in the 2007 movie to a physical toy that can convert from robot to jet, or quote-unquote jet. Like I said, my lack of enthusiasm is just, I feel like he's had better designs in some of the other movies, and I just never cared for this actual design. I warmed up to it more than I thought I was going to, but it's still, I would have preferred a better design for him. Like, even if there was some way to take this, like, extend it, like, if there was some way for this piece to just even attach to an arm somehow, like that, I think that would, like, that already, right, just right there, because even this curve kind of fits along that side, that arm piece. Just that right there makes him look more Megatron, having an arm cannon. Not 100%. Like, it doesn't go a long way towards making me feel better about the design, but, like, I just feel like there's some small things they could have done even in this design to make him read more as Megatron to me. That said, like I said, my complaints here are really with the movie design, not the toy itself. The toy is actually a fairly well realized rendition of the movie character. But there it is, MPM-8 Megatron. Masterpiece movie Megatron.